You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, we're Enterprise Splaining, the podcast where we explain Star Trek Enterprise to each other and to you. I'm Bill, and these are my co-hosts Maria.
Hello.
And Jamie.
Hi.
And today we are joined by Abby and Chris from First Flight Pod. Abby, Chris, please justify your existence. What is your relationship to Star Trek and Enterprise in particular?
So I'll start. I have pretty much been into Trek since I was about 7 years old and TNG came on. My dad was into sci-fi in general and he was watching TNG, and I actually first saw The Royale as my very first episode. So that spinny door and the casino and all that. And what I walked away from that thinking was, Data's really cool. I want to see more of that. And so that started me on my journey. I had a best friend all through middle and high school who completely nerded out with me. We were into DS9. We were into Voyager. We watched, we championed UPN at its beginning because it was taking over and it was going to be a Star Trek network. And Enterprise lined up for me right when I left for college. So their 4 years were my 4 years of starting out on my own and getting out into the world. And it was just really a special thing for me. It was always my show. I would always tape it on my VCR and watch it because it was my touch base to how I'd always had this as part of my life. Trek was part of my life growing up. And then it was just 4 years ago today, actually, of recording, which is funny. We dropped our first episode of First Flight, and it was me and the original other co-host, Melanie. She had the idea. She brought it up and said, hey, I want to do an Enterprise podcast. I want to rewatch with someone else who loves the show and who wants to go through slowly and talk about each thing in depth and have some good positive Enterprise vibes out there. And when she had to step away, Chris joined us, and we are almost at the end of season 3 now. And it has been a really fun journey to go back and even discover more why I do enjoy watching this show.
Would you say it's been a long road?
It's been a long road.
Thank you.
From there to here.
High five.
It was required.
I would like the slow version, please, for me.
There's a slow version? I was always thinking what this intro needs to be is longer.
We'll check back with you guys in about a year and see if you have any feelings.
It has some very 90s bass guitar slapping along at the end with the beat, so
Fantastic.
you grow to enjoy it, I guess.
Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I was born into a world where TNG started, and so I don't remember a time without Picard and Data and Riker and Beverly. Grew up also on the TOS films and the TNG films. Really sunk my teeth in TNG. Then Enterprise came, and I was in middle school, and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
What? Why am I watching this with my parents? They're rubbing jelly all over each other? I can't do this. So, that was a bad first impression. But, I like all Star Trek. Doing the podcast with Abby, though, has forced me to see good in it, a lot of good, and it only gets better. So you've gotten through season 1. Congratulations.
We made it.
It only gets better from here, and I've just listened to Carbon Creek, your episode on that, and that was more positively received, it sounded like.
Yeah, we like Carbon Creek.
Oh, wait until we get to A Night in Sick Bay.
So we read that one up too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love listening to some of your guys' podcast, how positive you guys are about the show. I definitely feel like we are not as positive, but I do feel like as we've been doing it, there are parts of the show that are really growing on us. Like I know we are big fans of Trip on this podcast. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's just like I'm starting to really see what people love about the show. People who do love this show, because I definitely have run into so many fans who love it, and I think it's as much as I the other day somebody on Blue Sky called me an Enterprise a fellow Enterprise fan. And I'm like, my first response was, whoa, how dare you call me an Enterprise fan? And I realized, I host an Enterprise podcast. I I made an entire Enterprise uniform from scratch. I think about the show all the time.
Yeah.
How can I possibly say that I am not a fan of Enterprise at this point, honestly?
When Abby and Melanie asked me to come be a co-host, I'm like, you guys know this is not my favorite Star Trek series, right? But I'll talk about Star Trek.
Yeah.
And, you know, I watched the whole show first run, but I didn't love it. And the theme song got to me. I love it now. I love the theme song now. I think it takes time to meditate on it and really chew on the details of it, if this is something you want to meditate on. But yeah, it's been interesting listening to your guys' journey through the series so far. So,
Well, and I have to say that Faith of the Heart, which is very polarizing, is a really good song. If I've got 2 young girls in elementary school level, and when it gets really nice around here and we're driving with the car windows open, we can just belt that one, and it is awesome, and we don't care, and it's wonderful. It's a good get some of your emotions out with the fresh air, you know, blowing in after the long winter. It's a good one for that.
I mean, just the lyrics alone are just, it sounds like a secular humanist anthem.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much Star Trek.
Yeah.
I got this nebulous faith of the heart.
We've definitely talked about how we don't think it's that bad of a song. It just, I do think the production, I think that the singer was probably not right for it. The production could use some work, but to me, it feels not right for Star Trek.
Yeah.
But song-wise, like, I don't have anything against it as a song.
It's a time capsule of the time it was in. Like, that was the sound of then. Just like the men have their blonde highlights that are so obviously the, like, turn of the millennium.
Oh my God, so many frosted tips.
Yeah, and you know, just how many hip bones we see is so that, like, 2000 low cut jeans, 100 million %. But I appreciate it as a time capsule to that connection to my time in my life when I was not wearing low cut jeans, we'll put it that way. But I remember being in that when that was what the world was like, and I imagine that's what people who grew up with TOS feel like. It's such a time capsule of that time, and that's part of the fun of it is feeling like you're back there. So I'm lucky to have that connection because I was watching it first run. I know people can't necessarily always do that, but that's definitely part of it for me.
Today, our mission is a second contact. Last week, I told Jamie and Maria what happened in the Star Trek Enterprise episode, Marauders. They have now watched the episode and are back with their thoughts, so make sure you to listen to last week's episode before you listen to this one. So, to recap what happened in that, in Marauders, it was Enterprise's broke-ass version of Seven Samurai by way of an A-Team episode.
The A-Team!
The crew encountered a group of miners and did not ignite their atmosphere, killing them all, but instead taught them the value of violence as they fought off a group of Klingon truckers who were robbing them of their precious deuterium. So what did you all think?
If you have a problem.
This crew promptly escaped from Starfleet and made their way into deep space.
If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the E-Team.
If you don't care if your entire planet is destroyed. All right, so what did y'all think of Marauders?
It was, for me, very much, it made me want to watch the A-Team, is what it did. It really, really made me want to watch the A-Team. It was fine. I liked them showing up and being like, okay, well, they don't want us here, so we shouldn't, interfere when we don't, even though it doesn't feel right. I also was amazed at Archer once again finding a way to yell at T'Pol for something that he did. Because he was like, okay, we're going to go back up to the ship. They don't want our help. And then there's a scene with him and T'Pol where he's like, well, I suppose you want us to just leave and leave these people alone. And you did this.
Yes, sir, you are the captain.
This was your choice. And I did like that she sort of shut him down with like, I agree with you. This is bullshit. We should do something about it.
On the meddling, I do think that if they did not want Archer to get involved, then they should have told him that they did want him involved, because
They
loves
should have
nothing
begged
more
him to get
than-
involved.
Yeah, when people are begging him to be involved and him being like, I don't feel comfortable with this. But no, I do think that he loves a situation where you have a very clear good and evil. You know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are. He's like that's an Archer situation.
Would you say he loves it when a plan comes together? Little joke from Maria there. Thank you.
Well done.
I honestly was surprised they didn't use that line. It was such an A-Team episode. Down to the point where I went back and was reading on Wikipedia a little bit about it, and it was sort of meh in the ratings on this one and the reviews. But one reviewer said the problem that they had with it was that there was all of this violence and nobody got hurt. And I was like, that's because it's an A-Team episode. It's exactly how the A-Team worked.
We came to love this episode more and more as we went through the season, because we kept thinking back to it and things that happened in it and noticing how it impacted other things. So we do on our show, we give a grappler rating at the end on a scale of 1 to 10. And then at the end of the season, we're allowed to go back and change one of them. And Chris changed Marauders higher because of how much we thought about it when we went on with the show. So just stick that kernel in there. And I almost changed mine. I had one other one that I was egregious and I had to fix. But this one, I would have put it up higher if I had had a second one. Like, it sticks with you in ways you don't expect.
Interesting.
Yeah, my first rating was 7.5, so like middle of the road. But it's kind of, okay, it's just another planet of the week.
Yeah, which is how I felt about it. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I love that because there are so many episodes of this where we're like, yeah, this was interesting. We're never going to see any of these people again or never ever reference this again. So it's nice to hear that at least some of it comes back in some way.
Yeah, or even if it's just like thematically.
Right. It's characterization, really. Well, even in this episode, there's that scene where Tessic and Archer in the tent after they've moved the whole colony.
Yeah.
And Archer's calling back to the pilot and the lessons in leadership that he's learned. That I was afraid then, and you're afraid now. Cool. We still got to stand up for the crew, your people.
Well, and we talked a lot when we covered this episode about how it was really interesting to see Archer with a peer here, because he doesn't have anyone else who's really at his level. Sometimes he and Phlox are peer-like because they do both have, the power to keep each other down or take each other out or whatever. But this is a leader to a leader, right? And so they can have a different kind of conversation. And one of the things that I particularly really like about Archer, when he's having these like big moments, he's doing something. Like, he's in this episode, you see it, he's fixing the rig while they talk the first time. He's, in the tent and they're doing the guns and they're getting all that ready. He does that with Trip all the time. They're fixing something, they're moving something, they're doing. He has to
water polo ball.
The water polo ball, yeah, exactly. It's those little bits of characterization that you see, but it's really nice to see at this point, about a third of the way through season 2, that we see Archer growing from what he had before. And it's right here where he tells you, I do realize that I came out here and I was surprised by a lot of things and I made some mistakes and I did some things right, but here's a lesson that I learned and I want to share it with you so you don't have to do that quite as hurtfully or make as big of a mistake as I made. And that's just a really cool moment to see, because Archer grows into a pretty good leader this season. And then
good to know.
Well, yes, and it takes a while though. I mean, he's got no one to model himself after, so it takes a while. But yes, he does, and we see that grow.
But he also, there's a lot of times when aliens take over the ship on Archer's watch too. So and Reed's watch too.
That's normal for Star Trek.
Picard did that. The Ferengi took over the Enterprise D, the flagship. So
I just want to say when Ferengi took over the Enterprise, that was it was Riker in charge, not Picard. Picard was gone.
Oh, okay, that's right. You're right. He beamed in as a kid.
3 Ferengi somehow took over the entire ship. Still don't understand how.
I don't know, but my daughters adore that episode, and they request it often. And they also think it's super cool that, like, the little robot toy is really the thing that saves the day. So.
I love that you guys, your theory on Archer's leadership is give him a fidget spinner and he'll do fine.
That's true. That's true.
Well, and it's this does have a masculine feel to it, right? But that's such a man thing to do. Like, we can have this conversation, but we can't just sit down and, like, have this conversation. We got to be having it while something productive is happening, or we're fixing, and I get that. But if that's what it takes to make this happen, great. Fantastic. And I'd like to see that relationship isn't portrayed as strange or weird. If this is what we need to do to get our ideas flowing and to be able to share and communicate, well, fine, great. Kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, and Abby, I mean, I was just listening to one of your previous episodes, and I think you mentioned this as well then, because it is sort of what Archer does, and I hadn't actually noticed it, but it very much is. He always has to be doing something. Like, I will have this conversation, but I don't want to make eye contact with you. You know, like, he wants to just he wants to be doing something else, and the conversation happens organically, but it's not the whole point. Like, there's this whole other thing. That is super an interesting idea.
Yeah, like, I love that you even mentioned the water polo ball, because that is like, when he has nothing to do, he is just throwing his water polo ball.
And
wouldn't you hate to be his neighbor?
Well, we figured out, remember, it's his bathroom door. Last year, we had one of our listeners wrote in, and she figured it all out with different shots. It was amazing. She's like, we've seen this, and we've seen this, and we've seen this, so this one has to be the bathroom door. And I'm like, okay. Because, yes, I think that all the time. I'm like, and who's going to complain that the captain's throwing his water polo ball? Like, you're not going to complain, but you're going to sit there with your earplugs and, like, go, oh, just stop already.
Fucking guy. Yeah. No.
Go to the gym.
All right, what did you guys all think about the discount Kazon?
They
are the most budget Klingons, but it's so cool because if you look at the details of them, that's exactly what they did. These are not I'm going to go back and report this to the High Council Klingons. These are not like the people who are up on billboards. These are the scammer Klingons. These are the backwater, and they've got tie-dyed fur on their outfits, and they're just not quite
binoculars.
It's binoculars. They're just not quite up to snuff. But they're still Klingons, which is still enough to be intimidating to these people for a while. And
but we joke that they, the Kazon are famously remakes of Klingons, just like poor ones, and these are like the rejected Kazon versions of Klingon.
I thought it was refreshing to see Klingons who are clearly not part of the warrior class, who are clearly just like drifting on the reputation. But also, they just clearly sucked at everything. And getting to the point of the violence of this episode, it's like they've established that these Klingons have killed other miners. No, we don't see them kill anybody on this episode, but they killed like 8 people.
Right.
And it just gets to the weirdness of this episode. This is an anti-bullying episode, so they're not going to kill these guys because they suck. But they have killed other miners on this episode. It's just it was a tonally weird choice.
Yeah, I really loved seeing Klingons that were kind of different than the Klingons we usually see, because it's one of the things about Star Trek is, right, like every different alien species is basically just like a stereotype, and everyone's kind of the same. And it's extra confusing with Klingons, because I'm like, well, not everybody can be like a warrior
just
out on these ships. Like, where are the farmers?
Season, you will see more of this with Klingons.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so just wait.
And y'all can probably confirm this, but so my immediate reaction to the Klingons from the very first time we've seen the Klingons on Enterprise was, why are they Next Generation Klingons and not original series Klingons? And apparently that gets explained, right? Like they do handle
to that still. That would be a season 4 thing, but yes, you will get there. And
in a two-parter.
In a two-parter. A duology that is one of my favorite Phlox moments of the series. We'll just put it that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So, when you get there in a couple of years.
Definitely, one of the things I definitely want to hit on that we haven't talked about yet is the costuming. I know that we've seen
these costumes.
We've seen the desert costumes, before
Yeah, we've seen
on
Archer
Desert
and
Crossing.
Tripp's desert costumes.
But what did,
Yeah, we have.
and we can certainly touch on how Mayweather is busting out of his uniform.
Muscles
yeah.
Barely
Mayweather.
contained.
That's what we call
Muscles
him.
Mayweather.
Muscles
Once
Mayweather.
again, we see his arms, and oh my god.
There is going to be a scene in season 4 where you're going to literally watch him lift heavy weights.
Oh my
And-
god.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it.
Just
So excited.
put that
Well,
in
in
there.
season 3 too. Season 3.
Oh yeah? Yeah? You're going to see him actively lifting weights multiple times.
We never saw him out of his uniform in season 1 until all the way near the end. I think it was in 2 Days and 2 Nights.
Yeah.
He's in like a tank and we see his arms for the first time, and I gasped out loud when we saw his arms.
I'm looking at my notes, and I literally have a note that says, Travis Arms again. Yes. Oh.
And they're aware of it. Trust me. We also joke that there's a
they are.
UPN skin quota in the episodes where like you have to show this percentage of these people's for the people's bodies this percentage of the time, and they are pretty equal opportunity as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of hip
Yeah.
bones and T'Pol cleavage, but there's also quite a lot of bare-chested and good arms and tight underwear from behind shots. Like you're gonna see quite a bit of flux soon. So
Naked
Oh,
flops.
Oh, no.
All right.
hey, but it
Oh, yeah.
it fills
I'm
the
not
skin
sure I'm
quota.
ready for that.
So I think we're supposed to assume that T'Pol's outfit is just the Vulcan version of desert wear.
When you see that fabric, it's gorgeous.
It
up
looked
close.
beautiful. So Bill described this episode to us last week and just said it's like her normal uniform but white. And
No.
that is so
The short version.
it is so much cooler than that. It was like white, but like an off-white, and it had like gray accents and
It's stunning.
texturing on the
Yes.
arms. It was so beautiful.
But
But
those boots.
Oh,
Can
yeah,
we
so-
talk about those fucking
Wait,
gunmetal silver boots?
the chunky heels, because she was in
I love 'em.
chunky heels at one point on
Oh,
sand.
it's so good.
Yeah, I know. And that if you watch when they first get out of the shuttlecraft, you see that Archer reaches back to help T'Pol, and part of that is because she had to get her balance in the sand in the heels.
The idea that the Vulcans, their sand uniforms, have like 3-inch heels on them is
Yeah.
so funny.
T'Pol's a snazzy dresser all the time, though. When you see her off-duty stuff, she's really got it. She's got some fashion sense.
Even her
Abby,
pajamas
you're
are
quoting
like
season 4 already.
her pajamas are silk pajamas. Like even when she's like
Ugh.
sleeping, she looks great.
Those pajamas are silly.
Yeah, I just feel like straight, like off-white, an entirely off-white jumpsuit is really not the best idea for a very sandy, dirty planet.
Yeah, but she was spotless. So what?
Yeah, she was spotless through the whole thing.
The guy, so Archer and Trip were immediately covered in sweat and dirt, and T'Pol's uniform,
stains.
yes, T'Pol's uniform was absolutely spotless.
She's from a desert world.
Yeah, Vulcan's a hot planet.
It was such a great
fair.
touch.
It did seem odd to me that their desert stuff was clearly like semi-camo, and hers was just like super reflective, like she stood out more than anybody else on the entire
Well,
thing.
it would make sense that they'd reflect heat. I mean, she's from the desert planet. She's got the one that actually makes sense. They've got the ones that look cool and aren't cool
Yeah.
because they pit out.
Although a skin-tight uniform does not really make sense for the desert, you'd probably want something a little flowy.
With a
but-
zipper down the back.
Yeah, you gotta have some airflow happening there.
What did you think of her other costume, which is when she was dressed like Vasquez from Aliens to give the beatdown on the...
I was about to say I loved her.
I loved it too.
Her battle gear.
I'm a huge fan of a headband. Like I wear a headband almost all the time. I loved it, and it was one of those classic callback to TOS where they put just something on to cover up the tips of her ears, and there's no way in having all this combat that would shift at all. So
Never,
it's
never,
perfect.
no.
It's perfect. Just like the hat in Carbon Creek. That will never shift. It will never blow off in the wind. Nothing.
Or their hair in Carbon Creek.
Yeah, the hair.
She just in
It's
Carbon
true.
Creek, she just covered her
I
ears
know.
with her hair.
I know.
No, Abby, he lived for 150 years on Earth wearing a knit cap the entire time.
Man, secretly he was bald underneath, right?
He invented the toque.
I felt like it was the first time that we've ever seen T'Pol in like some very practical looking clothing like that. Like she was wearing like full battle gear, like pants and like.
And we didn't have to see her change into it either.
Yes, I mean she did have a crop top, which is because God forbid we don't see her abs.
Skin quota.
No. Every top is a crop top in Enterprise.
Okay, but you guys, this has one of my favorite costume moments of the entire show because there is an extra in this
Belly bro.
Belly bro. Okay, that's what we ended up calling him. There's this extra, and he's got some shaggy hair. He is super tall and lanky, and he's wearing. He kind of looks like Shaggy from Scooby Doo, honestly. And he's got like the brown shorts and a greenish top, but it is 100% a crop top. Like you see his belly button, you see the belly hair, all of it. He's everywhere in this episode. He's carrying stuff in all the montages. He's in the phaser practice with Hoshi and Malcolm.
Y'all gotta do your Belly Bro rewatch.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
he's like
I
at night
feel
he's
like
crossing all the time, and especially he's carrying like heavy things in both arms, and when he does that it rides up even more. So there was 100% equal crop topping in this episode. He was everywhere, and it makes me smile every time I watch it because I'm like, there we go, UPN skin quota, which is not real but feels real to me.
It feels very original season scant. Like
Yeah.
I want to talk about Trip and a Child because
Oh, me too.
how has it taken it this long to get a scene with Trip and a Child? And can we just like have Trip and a Child in every episode from now on? Because it was so
That was very
adorable.
sweet.
He just like was so good with the kid. I love the way he doesn't like he talks to the kid like he's a kid, but he doesn't talk down to him. He sort of like talks to him as an equal, but in a way that he can still understand.
No, I agree with that. That was a really good interaction.
My note was that kid is also 100% baby Trip. Like, he was,
A time traveler.
yeah, you could definitely tell they were like kindred souls in a lot of ways, and Trip saw a lot of himself in that kid.
Yeah, but he should not have given him those schematics for the
Thank you.
That kid's gonna get murdered by the Suliban for those.
We thought it would be like the ones you get at the gift shop, right? That's got
Right,
like a
yeah.
museum map or the zoo map.
It's the Rascals version of the Enterprise D map.
In the computer.
From
Yeah.
going back to Rascals, that's what we said in our episode because I had the same issue. Like, this is their most advanced starship, and you're giving the schematics to that kid on a colony.
And that kid was not the best actor, but you're 100% right. Like, I teach elementary school and have kids that fall in that age, and there are people who just interact with kids like people, and it's really refreshing to see because not everybody does that, and not everybody does that naturally, and that was a really nice part of this. He never treated him like someone who should just be dismissed. He gave him the whys. He respected his feelings and his wants and moderated and gave him choices that he didn't really care which one he picked because they were both his suggestions, so they were cool. And I'm like, yep, I know that trick. It was a fun relationship to see.
I did feel like the kid was speaking for me. It's like, well, why don't you just kill him? It's like, yeah, why don't you just kill him, Trip? As if it's complicated. There was one moment where they've told him to fuck off. They found out that the Klingons are there, and Tessic tells them to, fuck off and take their whatever they needed. The deuterium. Thank you. And they're heading back to the shuttle pod dejected, and Trip sees the kid there, and he tells T'Pol and Archer, "Go ahead, I'll catch up to you." It's like they're getting on the shuttle pod, Trip. They're going back into space.
Yeah, how are you gonna do that? I had that note too. Like, what do you mean I'll catch up to you?
I don't understand how no one has apparently invented locks yet, though. How did the kid just get on that shuttle pod?
Oh yeah, no, that kid just was in there doing shit.
Look, this is the crew that just in their first season they roll up to anyone and say, "Hi, we're from Earth. How you doing?" And then they get shot at. So,
Hey guys.
that definitely does change over time.
They should have learned their lesson about locking the doors of the shuttle pod from sleeping dogs.
Yes, yes, they should have.
Because that Klingon went on that shuttle pod, and apparently they left their keys in the ignition because she immediately took off with it.
Oh yeah.
There will be some more moments with shuttle pods coming up that you're like, really? You didn't? Okay, all right. But, it gives some really good moments where you just go, okay, plot.
Yeah.
Or we also there are many times we watch these episodes and we go, if this had been streaming, not broadcast, and they could have had like an extra 3 to 7 minutes to put back in, even the deleted scenes that you read were actually deleted for time, they would have been so much better and it would have made so much more sense, and those are never in here, and that is probably one of them.
I do enjoy your guys' segment, Never Asked, Never Answered.
Yeah.
That's a nice segment.
Yeah, there's a
Why
lot
would you
of
do
those.
that?
I love an A-Team montage, and they kind of did an A-Team montage. It wasn't quite, they didn't have the like music over it, but they did kind of have it. And I particularly loved Hoshi being a better teacher than Malcolm.
Yes. Because it has that callback to Vox Sola when they were doing the phaser practice, and he gives her that super like one-sided proud smile that Malcolm does. Like, yeah, I have been practicing with her, and look at her go now. And that's so cool to see, because it wasn't about him. He was letting it be about her and how proud he was of her doing that, and that's so cool.
I agree.
The second episode of season 1, and basically like the first time they were out in space, I think that's when she was handed a phaser, and she like didn't she was like, should I even take it? Like, she didn't even feel comfortable holding it then. And so I loved seeing her like not just like feel so comfortable with that, and it made me so happy for Hoshi.
I will say, I do like the fact that this show does that sort of thing, where it actually does tie back to something that happened in the past. And we talked about this with Dead Stop. Like, it was really cool that they were actually dealing with the consequences of having to be in the minefield, the Romulan minefield, and how badly they were damaged, whereas any other Star Trek show would be like, oh, we're all fine now. And I love that they're like, there are things that happened early on that we have to, that are going to be referenced. And I like that a lot.
I definitely feel like TNG never really felt like it did much of that at all. Even DS9, you definitely get character growth, but I feel like Enterprise is just doing so much more of that, and I really do love that. And I haven't seen Voyager, so I don't know what that's like, but I do love whenever there's callbacks like that and we can kind of like see character growth.
The way Enterprise is doing serialization is similar to Voyager, but Enterprise ramps it up more. Their season 3 is more like, let's try and do DS9 the later seasons.
There are definitely moments that when you're looking for characterization and callbacks and those things, you will start seeing them more and more and more. And by the end of this season, you will be like, yes, I know why this is like this, and I know why this is like this. And I have seen these big spots along the way to get us to here with these people or with this relationship. And it just takes time. You think about how long it takes you to really feel like people, and by the time you're done with these 2 seasons, I feel like you really know them. And then the season 3, you go on one big adventure, and season 4, you go on a bunch of smaller adventures. And they were really hitting their stride when the network fell apart, and that was that. I mean, if you listen to all the other things out there were so many plans for season 5 that would have been amazing, and that they're setting up crumbs and pieces for here in these first couple seasons even, but they didn't get there yet. They had big plans. So when you guys get to that point, call us back and we'll talk about the mythical 5th season and all that was out there and what people have said, because it would have been amazing, and it would have connected things that you're like, oh, I never would have, but
the T'Pol storyline specifically.
If it had had one more season to get one more piece, it would have been perfect. It cut off at a point that was difficult. I wish there would have been more so much.
This is just a wild ride to be on a talk with people who are so positive about this show.
I know, it's so weird.
They came from a parallel universe.
Yes, definitely. Not a mirrorverse, but a positive verse, right? If you've heard our show, we have a whole decon section with things that don't gel with us.
I love the names of your different sections, like your read alerts and the pros and decons and your Porthos picks. You guys are so much smarter than we were about coming up with section names. I love it.
We have to say, one of them, we give out a couple special awards, and One of them is called the Duras Award, which is, you will find out coming out, for a character that is so frustratingly and massively annoying, but played so well that you just want to punch him in the face.
You just want to punch him in the face.
God, this actor did such a good job, because man, you just never go
I think we have
away.
several characters on the show right now.
Well, yeah, we give that out when we feel that vibe, and we have one that was suggested by one of our listeners, and it's the play on the Lower Decks, the Vulcan as a Mother flipper, and we call it the Vamp Award, when someone does something really so Vulcan, whether it's positive, negative, or both. And we give that out when we feel necessary, and that's been really fun. And we added view screen on, like, as we've gone on, we've found more things that we really wanted to make sure we focused
now do
on.
a Travis line count.
Oh, yes.
Because
Yes, every episode there's a Travis
This
line
poor guy.
count. Hey, he got 3 in a row with double digits in season 3. So come on now.
Poor
Nice.
Travis. Every time, like, I get
Poor
so
Travis.
excited when we see Travis, and it'll be like 1 or 2 lines, and then if he is involved, it's always like they need
He was
Travis.
kidnapped, or he's
Yeah,
dead.
to do
I know, that was
something
the
so
thing, poor
somebody
dead Travis.
else's story can move forward.
Yeah. There's always a dead Travis moment. It's very, very sad. He is the Miles O'Brien and most criminally underused character. Hoshi comes in a very close second, but she does have some good meaty stuff. And when he has it, he does a great job. I mean, Anthony Montgomery is a good actor, and he plays the heck out of stuff and makes everything he has as important as it can be. And he's often in the background being Muscles Mayweather. Like, you have some moments coming up where it's just like, yes, Travis, go. And he's a good guy to have around. He can fly a ship and he can take down a bad guy. So all praise to Travis. But yeah, his line count is part of our show now.
Muscles Mayweather is my favorite.
Yeah, I love that.
God,
me too. I love saying it.
love it so much. So I did a little bit of reading about this episode just because I was curious as to how it was received, and it was apparently the second highest audience for an episode of the second season, but reviews were definitely mixed. And it's the Wikipedia thing says critics responded negatively to the lack of consequences from the fight sequence. And I'm like, yes, because it's an A-Team episode. Nobody is going to die in the A-Team.
Well, considering how many people they kill through violence and ejecting them into space, and
For a change, nobody died.
It was such a convoluted plan, and then the whole plan just came down to we got to get all the Klingons in one area so we can just make a ring of fire around them and scare them. And now apparently they're going to leave and never come back because they're like, fire's scary, I guess.
Fire bad.
And also, what about all the other colonies that they're bullying?
Well, and we always wondered why they didn't just shoot them from up above once they got back to their ship and be like, screw you. But then we decided they were so budget, they didn't even have any photon torpedo.
well, their ship is actually, I believe, a freighter, so maybe they didn't have those capabilities. So
I also went back and was looking at some of the reviews of this, and my favorite review was Michelle Erica Green reviewing the episode for Trek Nation said the episode seemed to follow the same story as the 1998 animated film The Bug's Life.
Oh,
Yeah. That's a pro.
Yeah.
That's a pro.
Yeah, so good. It also is kind of the plot of Blazing Saddles.
yeah, well, there's only 7 basic plots out in the world, right?
Yeah, it's fair.
I feel like in its defense, they did it the Starfleet way, right?
Yeah,
They did it the Starfleet way. They taught the people how to fish instead of giving them a fish,
Oh my god.
right?
That particular line where he was like, there is a saying on my planet. Like, he delivered that line like it was some great Buddhist wisdom or something. Like, okay, calm down, Archer.
Maria, would you have preferred it if he said, "When I was in my early 20s, I took a trip to West Africa"?
I found found a gazelle.
It's because gives that speech every planet that they're on.
I did love that they had the scene of T'Pol like teaching them how to dodge the botlet, and then later we got like 4
Susmana.
different scenes. Yeah, we got like 4 different scenes of people like using their dodging capabilities and like diving to the ground and rolling.
This episode is good for just the fact that the ensemble is involved.
Yeah,
Yes.
everybody has
Even
something to
Flox
do.
has something to do. Everyone's got something to do. It's not just the Archer show.
Oh, we didn't talk about, what did you think about Phlox's?
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that woman
Loved
have a name? So many of these characters did not have it, but like just the thing, he's like offering her his little like
Yeah.
blood starfish.
That woman just giving Flox just giving shit away. Like, here, take this. Have it. It's fine.
I love that they asked for medical supplies, thinking they're gonna get like tech and medication, and Flox is like, "Here's a starfish."
It drinks blood.
It's
Okay,
so Flox.
but-
I loved it.
Flox's menagerie is such a beautiful part of this ship, and it's so real, and they never forget about it. Like, when they have
Right.
to go and move everyone to a safe space, they take the menagerie. When they think they might have to leave the ship for good, they take the menagerie. When he's incapacitated, somebody is taking care of the menagerie. Like, that's sweet. If we have a dog, we might as well have all the weird stuff too. And like, I love the Pyrithian bat, and it turns out Lower Decks has said that the milk of the Pyrithian bat is very good and very healthy. So, you know, look at that, it all comes back around. And I really liked that scene with the two of them because it's like they're trying to tell each other stuff in code, and it takes a minute for Phlox to catch on that she's trying to tell him something without telling him something, which is
It's like she's
I
a
like
victim
that.
of abuse, and
Yeah.
he's like picking
Right.
up on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
slowly starts to, and like that's when the pieces of this puzzle start to come together, and that's a very Phlox thing to be able to do. And
He's one of the most empathetic people on the whole show.
oh yes, and we
sure.
talk all the
For
time
sure.
about how he can go from like jolly and happy and mentor to teacher to doctor to dead serious. Oh my god, you're gonna die, we're gonna have to do this ethically gray thing, okay, got it. Like John Billingsley is
Yep.
amazing through all that makeup to get all of that out there, and you just feel like, you know, you'd want to hang out with Phlox. You know, things would be super weird, and he'd totally steal your snacks, but it would be so much fun, and you would laugh, and you would have great stories to come home with.
Okay. Any final thoughts
Yes.
on the episode Marauders?
So I was very excited about the curly-haired lady who I do not remember her name. I was
I
excited.
don't think she had
I
one.
loved her.
I liked when they introduced her. I was excited because as a fellow curly-haired woman, I was just excited to see that. But also, like, at first I was really excited because I thought it was our first time now, like, I don't know, a third of the way through season 2, that we'd ever seen a one-off female alien with like talking parts who was not merely a love interest or a mother. And then
Or a bad guy,
then we
or
see
more
the
than
child,
one.
and then I realized, like, oh no, she's basically there to be the mother, but at least she got to do some non-mother stuff. Like, I love to see a mother, but it just is like, women can also be
That's not
other
the
things.
only purpose.
They don't have to be mothers or love interests all the time. I was so excited, but then she was still like, she was there to be the mother of that child. It was weird at the very end because they had the father and the son were like, Archer said goodbye to them and then left, and then they were like waving goodbye to the shuttle, and I was like, where'd the mom go? She just wasn't there. Nobody said goodbye to her. She was just gone.
Well, all the people that didn't get injured, she had to help them. Right.
Yeah, but we're getting close. Maybe sometime soon we will see a female alien who's not a love interest or mother, who just is doing other
You
things.
had Ambassador Valar in Fallen Hero last season, and that was an incredibly well acted part.
Yes, that was so good. You're right. I guess that's our one alien woman.
Well, Jamie, the Paragon colony was absolutely chock full of them.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately, there was a little mishap. Maria, final thoughts?
I watched this episode twice because I watched it again today because I realized that the first time I watched it, it was right after I maybe had a few things like edibles, and so my notes made no sense, and I had this note that I wanted to share with you all that I'm still not sure is relevant, but it says, "Four-legged leech is my Three Dog Night cover band."
Oh, that's his little starfish that drinks blood as it repairs arterial. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Chris and Abby, final thoughts on Marauders.
I did not expect when I was doing my season 2 rewatch to have liked this one differently and then to have thought about it as much afterwards. So I'm really excited to come on here and just let you know that I don't think this is the end of your journey with this episode. I think you're going to be thinking back to things here. I think, and not in big, like, boom, boom, whack you over the head ways, but in ways that you're like, oh yeah, I remember when this happened. I remember when this happened. I remember when this happened. And I find this episode sneaky good and underrated, and I would like to just throw it out there to anyone who's listening to this Enterprise podcast that this one is one to think about.
I love it.
That we are bad and wrong and don't listen to us.
Not at all. Because
No, you should
bring
not
up
listen.
all the fun stuff that we laugh at too. Like we have our moments for sure. Like I had a moment talking about, Daniels, you haven't heard him say this yet, but he can't say the word sphere, like, big round ball. He says spear, and it drives me nuts. And I spent a good couple minutes talking about how a spear is something you throw in the jungle.
And Daniel's outfit loves to.
Oh, the time
his outfit loves to point to his crotch. His outfit just points to his crotch.
Sparkly, glowy light tubes. Like, yep, his time tubes outfit is rough.
Yeah.
When we put this together, I want to bleep out the word that Daniels can't say, just so that the people who listen to this don't know that it's coming.
I love that.
So it's gonna be a curse word.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Daniels cannot say the word beep.
I just think you'll think about this one, and I'm glad we got to come on here and talk to you guys about it.
Oh, so glad you came out. This was great.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that they go on location.
Yeah.
And there's night shots. There's a lot of production value in this. They do their attempt of a big action adventure western kind of thing, which is a good flavor that we don't always get. We're not on the standing sets the whole time. So just in terms of flavor of Star Trek, it's a fun one. And it feels TOS, like episode Planet of the Week.
Yeah.
We're going to go down and help them, then go back on the ship. And if that's what they were kind of going for with the Enterprise, they've done it here.
Right.
Not a perfect episode, but a good one.
Supplemental recommendations, Abby and Chris. We all know that William Riker is binge watching all of Enterprise on his holodeck. Do you have a recommendation for Will's Hollow Rex, brought to you by Eric, trademark, of something that he could be spending his time on instead?
I for sure do. I would like to say this even connects back to our Trek family. Will Wheaton, who played Wesley Crusher across multiple iterations of Star Trek, has a new podcast called It's Storytime with Will Wheaton, where he reads you short fiction pieces of science fiction. It's really good.
Fun.
There are really cool stories, really different stories, really heartfelt stories, really hard stories. It's been really neat to listen to him, and he narrates audiobooks all the time, so he does a great job of reading these stories. And it has just come out. I think the 4th episode dropped last week, so you can totally go through, binge them all. They're all usually between like 35 and 45 minutes of story, and he's an easy listen. Like if you need a bedtime story or something to put on while you're lounging in the bathtub or whatever, that's a wonderful thing. Riding on a train, whatever. I could not recommend it higher. It is the spiritual successor to LeVar Burton reads. If you ever listened to that podcast, I was a huge fan. And Will actually says he went to LeVar and said, I want to do something like what you did. Do I have your permission? I don't want you to feel anything. And LeVar gave his blessing and said, take it and fly. Get these readers to know these writers, get people to know these people. And I love science fiction stories, like things that make you think, and time travel, and robots and all this. And he's picking good stuff and people I have not heard from before. So go and check that out. Support new sci-fi writers and the work of short fiction.
I don't think that Maria and I have ever told our Will Wheaton story on this podcast.
We have a Will Wheaton story?
So, well,
Were
I guess
you
it's
there?
because Maria may not remember, but so a long time ago at Dragon Con,
I remember my Will Wheaton story. I just don't remember you being there.
I was there because what happened was we were in
Such
the
an
lobby
embarrassing
at
story.
Dragon Con in the lobby of the Hilton at 2 a.m.
Yep.
And I guess Will Wheaton walked in, and we were with people who know him. So they like called him over, and he came over, and they were chatting. And I am standing there, and I'm like, I don't know who this man is. But I'm standing next to Maria, and Maria is absolutely having like a internal meltdown that she is standing there with Will Wheaton, and I can tell because she's like, Maria's like trying to act cool, like everything's totally normal, but is like definitely freaking out inside. And I'm like, I don't even know who this is. This was of course before I'd ever seen any Star Trek, and I was like, I don't know who this is. But then like our friend then introduced us to him, but not him to us, I guess, under the assumption that we know who he is. So we were introduced to him. We said hi. And then he's like, oh, I'm so tired. It's 2 a.m. I'm going to go to bed. And we're like, bye. He leaves. And Maria's like freaking out. And I turn to her and I go, so who was that? And Maria goes, Jamie, that was Will Wheaton. And I think about it, and I'm like, okay, that's a familiar name, and I'm thinking, and I go, oh, that guy who's really funny on Twitter. This was probably like 2013 when he was big on Twitter, and I'm like, oh right, like I've seen so many people retweet that guy on Twitter. He's so funny on Twitter. I truly I did not know anything else about him. And Maria looks at me and she goes, are you joking? And then
how dare you
explain to me who Will Wheaton is. So that's our Will Wheaton story.
Here's my side of the Will Wheaton story, which was Jamie and I were at Dragon Con and we were running a vaccine clinic for people to get their flu shots and their Tdap vaccines at Dragon Con. It was this whole thing. We'd done it. This was the second year we were doing it. And I was like, oh, if Will Wheaton could tweet about this, then we would get a ton more people there. And so I told my friend who was the person who introduced us, I was like, yeah, you got to do that. And it was 2 a.m. at Dragon Con, which means Maria was drunk. And
the devil you say.
Yeah. So I'm standing there, and if you hear my friend A tell this story, she was like trying to explain to Will Wheaton the situation, and I was standing there with my head right in between them, like looking at each of them, like turning my head to each of them as they talked. And she was like, I was so embarrassed. And I was like, yeah, no, that's right. That all checks out. I am not chill at all in front of celebrities. Not even a little bit.
Chris, do you have a recommendation?
Sorry.
Yes, very different tone. Andor season 2's coming out, so I recommend or recommend Andor season 1. I'm going to jump in and rewatch that leading up to the drop. So
it's exciting.
Great. Abby and Chris, where can people find you online?
Well, our pod is called First Flight, and we are reviewing Enterprise one episode at a time, just like you guys are, but we are quite a chunk ahead of you. We are in the last 4 episodes of season 3, and so it's gotten big and heavy and deep, and we've got a lot going on. But you can find us on all your major streaming platforms, and we are active at First Flight Pod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, all those places. You find us, we'll find you. So that's them. And then you can find me. I mostly hang out on Blue Sky, but I pop around on the other places as well. And that's Abby M. Summer, SOMMER, not like the season.
yeah, and I'm Chris. You can find me on Blue Sky most of the time as @ShelfNerds. And yeah, we look forward to connecting with more Star Trek fans.
I am so excited that we did this crossover episode.
Yeah, thank you guys so much
Absolutely.
for coming out.
You're
This was
welcome.
great.
Thanks for inviting us.
When we first started our podcast, we had like done some Googling, and for some reason, like your podcast never came up, and we were just like, we are the first Enterprise podcast. We're so excited. We recorded our first couple episodes and hadn't released them yet. And like, I think right before our first episode was going to release, Maria like panicked, was like, guys, there's already an Enterprise podcast. It already exists. They stole our idea. And I'm like, Maria, how dare they steal our idea 2 years before we had it?
Well, and part of that is that we were on a network and then we left the network and went independent, and things got a little janky in there. But I'm glad you found us either way, and I don't care that you have the exact same thing. 2 other people could be doing exactly what we're doing, and it would be a completely different experience, and that's the fun of it.
Yeah, no, I was like, there can surely only be a market for one Enterprise.
All right, Highlander.
Fortunately, the tones of our shows are very different.
We are quite
Yeah,
different.
very different.
Meanwhile, Greatest Generation is crushing everyone.
And you know what? We've branched out a little bit too. Like we love all Star Trek, Chris and I do. And so we've had bonus episodes talking about Prodigy that we watch with our children.
Nice.
And like our reactions to the new season. We've gone over each season of things as they finish up, and series that have wrapped up. We did a whole Discovery retrospective. We did a whole Lower Decks retrospective that are huge, epic, long, like take bathroom breaks and listen over multiple days, but wonderfully connected to everything else because we can't help ourselves. We just really like talking about Star Trek and sharing it with the world.
We're some nerds.
And that's the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Next episode, Maria will be watching the 7th. Special thanks to K.O. Myers at Particulate Media for sound assistance, and to our friend David for our beautiful cover art, and to John Stephen King for being the voice of our computer. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast app of choice and tell your friends about it. We appreciate that. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook as @EnterpriseSplaining, and on Blue Sky as @EnterpriseSplain. You can also email us any comments and questions such as, why are you guys like not nice like these other 2 people are? To enterprisesplaining@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. And if you want to support this podcast like so many other cool people are, you can find us on Buy Me a Coffee as Enterprise Splaining. We will see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Howdy! A new year means it's time for a new season of the Dragon Con Report.
We're here to help you plan, learn more about the con, and make the most of your trip.
From guest announcements to tips for navigating the con, we've got you covered.
Catch the latest episodes wherever you get your podcasts.
Because Dragon Con is better when you're ready for it.
The Dragon Con Report, your ultimate guide to the con of all cons.
Subscribe now and start your adventure.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.